recording on this computer. And our webinar is now live. It is 1 o'clock on Thursday, September 10th. We're here with the Agriculture in the Classroom program for Illinois, and we are really excited today, folks. We have with us Lisa Amstutz, and Lisa is the author of Applesauce Day. Last week, we visited an apple orchard, and today what we wanted to do was talk with an author about apples. So welcome, Lisa. Why don't you start off and begin by telling us just a little bit about yourself and giving us a little overview of the book. We've, just so you know, Lisa, we've done a good job pushing this book. We've ordered cases and cases and sent them all across the state of Illinois for folks to learn more about making applesauce. So welcome, and we'll let you begin by telling us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thanks, Kevin. It's great to be here today, and I'm excited to be talking to you guys about applesauce, which is one of my favorite things. I am a children's author, and I write lots and lots of books for kids. That's my job. And so this is one that came out not too long ago, a few years ago, and it came about because I was thinking about, well, what could I write next? I finished my last book, and I didn't have any ideas, and I thought it would be fun to write about a family tradition. I don't know if you guys all know what family traditions are, but they're things that your family likes to do year after year. And like maybe you always have turkey at Thanksgiving, or maybe you always make Christmas cookies, or something like that. Those are family traditions. And it seems like a lot of the ones in our family have to do something with food. So applesauce is one thing that we like to make every year as a family, and then we make enough to keep it for the whole entire year. So that's a family tradition, and I thought that would be really fun to write about. So I don't know if do you want me to talk about how we make our applesauce a little bit?
That would be great. Yeah, go ahead if you got a secret recipe.
Well, it's not a recipe really, but I have a few pictures I can share here. If I can figure out how to share my screen again. Let's see here.
And folks, as Lisa's pulling that up, we are using a new webinar feature. We do invite folks to use the Q&A section down at the bottom. There is a Q&A. You'll ask your questions in there, and we'll respond online or in person, and we'll bring those up to Lisa. So.
Okay. I'm having a little trouble getting my mouse to work here.
You know, and Lisa, you're typically during this fall time, you do student presentations. Oftentimes you actually go into classrooms. So things have changed for you too, and now you're doing more virtual presentations. So.
Yeah, that's for sure. Things are a little different these days. All right, I'm gonna try this one more time. I'm having a little trouble here. For whatever reason.
Lisa's joining us from northeastern Ohio, where she's from. In addition to being a children's author, she's a mother. We were talking earlier about her 4 children, 2 in high school and 2 in collegiate programs. So. There you go. You're on now. Go ahead.
All right, great. So this is the book, Applesauce Day. And there's a little picture from inside it that you can see of family making applesauce. But when you make applesauce, you have to start with apples, of course, and apples grow on trees, like you guys learn when you visit the orchard. This is one of them growing on one of our trees here at our house. You can also get apples at the farmer's market, or at the orchard, or even at the grocery store. So you don't have to have a tree in your backyard to make applesauce. You can do it with any kind of apples. This is my husband up in a tree picking apples. A little precarious there. And there's the whole couple boxes of them that we got. So when you make applesauce, the first thing you want to do is cut up the apples. And if you're going to do it with, just in a pot yourself with a blender or something, then you want to take out the seeds and the core and everything and the peels. But we have a special little gizmo you'll see here in a minute that we don't need to do that. So they're all ready to cook now. And here they're in the pot. And this is my family's pot that we use. I actually did get it from my grandma, kind of like the one in the story. Doesn't look quite like the one in the picture, but that's okay. And they cook until they get mushy and soft like this, and then they're ready to mash into applesauce. So this is the thing we use to crank the applesauce. And I'm going to show you just a little short video clip that shows how it works here in a second. If it works. See that? That's my son. He's pushing them in the top, and the applesauce comes out the front there. Peels and seeds and everything else comes out into that bowl, and we like to feed those to our chickens. They think that's pretty nice. So then it's all ready to go. It's all it is apples. And then we like to add just a little bit of sugar, and we put them in containers and put them in the freezer. So then we'll have enough for the whole year to have applesauce, fresh applesauce all year long.
Now,
well, that's what we do, and that's what the book's about.
And in the book, the whole family is involved, and in real life, it kind of mimics that as well. So your son looked like he was enjoying his experience with that. I'm sure, like other situations, he'll look back more fondly on it in a couple of years than he actually does. Right. But,
yeah.
You did bring up a couple other points that I think might influence your writing. You wrote about something your family, you've made applesauce. As a writer, how important is that for you to know your topic?
That is very important, actually. I don't think I could write well about something I didn't know, but I do still learn a lot of things as I write. So I write within fields I know, but learn a lot more along the way as I go. If that makes any sense. I do a lot of research.
That totally makes sense. And given the fact that not only do you have apple trees on your farm, you talked about your chickens as well. So you do have at least a small farm that you're growing things on or raising your family on.
We do, yeah. We have just 6 acres, but we have chickens, and right now we have some baby turkeys. We have goats and 2 steers and a sheep and 3 ducks at the moment.
Like your own little menagerie. You've got your own little zoo in the backyard.
Exactly.
Growing up, was that common for you? Were you from a farm background? Did you have an agricultural background as you were growing up?
My parents both grew up on farms, so whenever we went to visit my grandparents, one lived on a corn and soybean farm in Iowa, and the other one lived on a grass seed farm in Oregon. So we spent time every year on the farm. And my parents, we just had a little house in the country, about 3 acres, but they did grow chickens, and we grew pumpkins for a while, and Christmas trees, and lots of things on that. So they kind of had that entrepreneurial spirit of farming, even if it wasn't their full-time job. So yeah.
And given what you are in Ohio now, with an Iowa connection, obviously we're from Illinois, the idea of corn and soybeans, we understand those more traditional crops. However, what a fascinating experience to have a background with grass seed and within Oregon. Those are fascinating tours. I've been fortunate enough to attend some and go and watch as those specialty crops, well, they're a real crop out in Oregon. We'd call them a specialty crop here, but the folks that actually grow the grass seed. How about how the differences have influenced you as an author, and you're able to see agriculture from all different sides, not just what's around you or what you grew up with?
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of farming out there that people don't think about or know about. I think that where all these products do come from, right? So yeah, definitely.
And another question that came to my mind as you were sharing, your son running the apples through the grater, through that sieve type of thing to separate the meat of the apple versus the seeds and the skin and the stems. When you turned your manuscript over to the editor, then an illustrator, the person who came up with the pictures, was involved. How involved were you as the writer to work with that illustrator to come up with the pictures for your book?
Actually, not very involved. They typically keep the author and illustrator pretty separate, and so she drew the pictures, and the art director at the company worked on them. And then I did get to review them, though, and to make sure that things were accurate and that if any changes were needed. And I think I did get to pick or have a say in which cover. They'd come up with 2 different cover options, and so they asked my opinion on that too. But so yeah, there was a few little tiny things that I found that, just to make the machine look exactly accurate and those kind of things. But for the most part, she did a great job, and it was, there wasn't much changes needed at all. So
In my work with authors and interviewing authors, that is the one thing that many aspiring authors don't realize is you don't get to pick who illustrates for you. You are contracted. Your job is to write the story. An editor and an art director, they come together and they pick an illustrator, and it's what they see from your vision that ends up in the final process with the book. And Lisa, Applesauce Day, it's not your first book. In fact, we're celebrating a very special day today. I'm going to give Lisa some a shout out here. Big day for you today because it's birthday book for birthday book day for you for a couple of books. You want to talk about what just happened in the last couple of days for you as a writer?
yeah, well, I do a lot of books for various companies, especially nonfiction. And so yesterday I got this package on my porch of author copies of actually 10 new books. So that was exciting. At this series here, they're called Fall Field Trips. And we have one here actually about visiting an apple orchard. Let's go to the apple orchard. So that was kind of tied in nicely with this talk here today. Let's go to the pumpkin patch. Sorry. Let's go to the Harvest Festival, and let's go to the Nature Center. So that was one series that just came out, hot off the press. And then this other one here is about landforms, and it's caves, mountains, islands. Anyway, it's a series of 6 here. So those came out. So that was exciting too.
So not often do authors, it's a big deal when you get a book to come out. Folks, Lisa just got 10 books to come out. So that is really, that's really kind of exciting for her. We did have a question come in building off of last week. Do you have a favorite type of apple that you use when you yourselves, when your family, when you're making applesauce?
Definitely. This is kind of an old family tradition too, but we really like the yellow transparent apples. They're an early summer apple and they're kind of tart, but I just really like the flavor. Sometimes they're hard to get. They seem to come about every other year, and then the off year there's not many. So we have one tree and we get them sometimes. Sometimes I get them at the orchard, but those are our favorite. And if we can't get those, then we use something else. Lodi is another summer apple we use, or in the fall, like Macintosh or Jonathan, or some people like Yellow Delicious.
And we learned last week as we were visiting the orchard that apples do come on from the late summer all the way through November, and it depends on where you're located. Now in northeastern Ohio, where Lisa's located, fall turns to winter a little quicker than it does for our orchard down in southern Illinois. So definitely want to make sure that you're using that. And another really good question, somebody taking a practicalist stance, that was a lot of applesauce. How do you store that much applesauce?
Yeah, we put ours in the freezer. We have a pretty big freezer. You can also can it if you're into that. And it just takes one more step then to put it in the water bath and can it for a little while.
So the freezing, literally, you take it right from the press as you run it through, you let it cool, you put it in your tubs, and you stick it in the freezer, pull it out a couple hours before you're ready to enjoy, and you've got access to it. Thank you for the question.
Exactly.
Again, folks, if you have questions, just put those in the question and answer section, and we'll be happy to get those to you. We are recording this, so it will be available on our blog site here in just a couple of minutes as well. Lisa, another question I wanted to ask about writing. We talked about this during the pre-session that when we were talking together. Students are encouraged to write. We are writing and writing and writing. What is one of the most challenging aspects for you as an author when you have to turn over your writing to someone else? What's hard about that for you?
Yeah, well, that can be a challenge. Once you sell a book, you don't actually own it anymore. So in the end, the editor has the final say. So we did have a few go rounds on one of my books about the title, and they went with the one they liked, and I still don't think it was the best choice, but that's okay. I won't tell you which one. It wasn't this one. But yeah, there's lots of editing involved. So you work together to try to come up with something that makes you both happy, I guess, ideally.
And another great question coming in from Southern Illinois, here in Illinois, one of our classrooms in Southern Illinois. How many times does your book get edited before it's ready for publication? A lot of people put, when they're writing, especially a number of students, as a former teacher, they'll write something and they are sure it is perfect. And then as a reader, as a teacher, someone else, we see some, hey, what if you tried this? How about that editing process? How long does it take for your book to be edited before it's ready for publication?
Well, if you start way back at the beginning, I would say Applesauce Day was probably edited about 30 times by the time it got published.
Folks, 30, 10 times 3. Imagine handing a piece of paper into your teacher 30 times. So.
Yeah. Now, some of those were just me working on it before I sent it in. I have a critique group, which is a group of writers that we share manuscripts. We send them back and forth to each other, and we help each other come up with ideas to make it better. So I did that several times. I worked on it on myself for a while, and then I sent it to my literary agent, which is a person who, her name is Vicki. She sends out my books for me to the publishers and tries to sell them, so I don't have to worry about that, which is kind of nice. So I think she had me edit it a couple times, and then when it got to the editor, it got edited several more times back and forth. So, and then once they put the art with it, that proof came back a couple times, and so yeah, it's just a long process of back and forth and back and forth. But every time it gets a little bit better. And so that when you compare your story that you just wrote to the ones you see in the library or bookstore, you think, oh, I can never make mine that good. But after you go through that process over and over and over again, it gets better and better each time. And that's how those books all went through that process too. That's how they got to be as good as they are.
And realize for our students, as those of you who read these books, that it is, the Applesauce Day is around a 32-page book, right? A 32-page children's book that has been edited 30 different times. So my advice to our aspiring authors, just stick after it, folks. It takes a while to build that up. Another great question comes in that says, most of your books have a nature theme to it. And on your blog site, you talk about nature as a part of your background and your heritage. Most of your books have that ag and nature theme. What draws you to those topics?
I don't know. I guess I've always loved nature. I've always loved exploring the outdoors, and I've always loved growing things. And when I went to college, I majored in biology, and I studied that. And then I went to graduate school, and I studied environmental science. So after that, I thought I would maybe work in one of those fields, but then I got hooked into writing, and so I've been writing about them ever since.
That is a really cool activity, progress. Again, with your background in both biology and environmental sciences, now you're taking what you know at this much higher level and bringing it down to children. What aspect of writing stories for the audience that you choose to work with? And again, Applesauce Day is a little on the lower spectrum. You showed us a book earlier, your amphibian one, Lisa, if you could hold it up and just showcase to folks, this is a little different book, and it's more of I would put this at a middle level, or definitely upper elementary versus a lower primary grade like the Applesauce Day one is. How difficult or different is it writing in those different styles?
It is different. I usually try to read some books in that similar genre just to kind of get my head in the right space and get thinking about what kids that age can read and understand and like to hear. So yeah, but it's fun. It's been fun to do a variety of age levels, and when you do something like this one, you can see it's got a lot more text on the page. You just get to dig a lot deeper with the research, which is a lot of fun too.
And there is there's not a tried and true recipe for just like applesauce, everybody can like theirs a different way. The book Amphibians that you worked with, that publishing house has very specific requirements that they're looking for. They want so many pages, they want so many sidebar stories, so many photos. With that, did you get to pick the pictures for your books, or were you working with an art director with that series?
Yeah, with that one, actually, it was my responsibility to get the photos. So I got online and I just looked at tons and tons and tons of pictures to find the ones that I thought fit best, and got the permission to use them and all that kind of thing that you need. And so that was actually the first book I've done that I had to do that, though. Most of my other ones, like these ones I showed you from Capstone with the apple orchard and all those do have photos in them, but the company gets those, so I don't have to hunt those down.
You write the story, they find a picture that goes along with it. There you go. But one other important piece of advice there, folks, to our aspiring authors is she used the word permission. And she did look online for photos, but she didn't just download them and stick them in. There's a whole process that goes along with people who are writing. There's a lot of rules you have to follow about protecting the work of others, just like we want to protect your work as an author. So challenges that you've encountered with that, Lisa, especially as an author with a background in the sciences. Now you're almost a lawyer sometimes too.
Right. Well, the company gave me a form to fill out, so that was helpful. And mostly I just had to track down where they came from. And a lot of the places did charge for the photos, so I had to pay for those. Some of it was just deciding if I could afford it or not in my photo budget. But yeah, I just had to make sure that I had all that documented, and that they had signed off and agreed, and had a slip showing that I had paid for it and all that. So.
And for our aspiring authors, basically what you've just described is a rubric. Here's the rules you had to follow in order to do this. To be successful, you had to check each box on the rubric. Don't you hate it when those things come back that you learned in school that, actually here's a real world application for it? And who knew that writing children's books required such a finesse in understanding what the rubric said. So there's your language, but also budgeting. You're supposed to worry about budget and math and numbers and staying in line. Isn't this just like, don't they just write you a blank check and you can just go off and do whatever you want?
I wish. No, we're on a pretty tight budget here. So children's publishing is not terribly lucrative most of the time. So, it's we don't have a huge amount of money to spend. So
exactly, they're putting out a lot of books, and what's very important, and one of the things I want to draw your attention to here, folks, is we're not working with a one and done author. Lisa has written a number of books. On our blog site, beyondthebarndoor.wordpress.com. We've got a link to her page, and you'll see the number of books she's written. And again, celebrating 10 brand new books this week. That's really exciting. So Lisa, as we change and we've seen things different during the pandemic, what are you working on in the future with your science background? What are some of the things that you're working on in the future?
Well, I'm currently working on a book called Mammal Mania, which is going to be in the same series as this amphibian one. So it'll be real similar, except that it focuses on mammals. So that one's in the process of going back and forth between me and the copy editor right now. And I'm sure it'll come back a few more times before it's published next spring. It's supposed to come out in April. And I have another one that's coming out in December here called Plants Fight Back. It's about plant defenses. That's a picture book, a rhyming picture book. So I'm trying to gear up and figure out how to start marketing that one. And lots of other things, ideas I'm working on, but nothing firm yet. So,
and in addition, one of the things that you as the author are charged with is marketing your books as well. So in a typical year, this would find you, as we're gearing up, more classroom visits and bookstore visits as books come out. Now you're changing like everyone else is and doing things more virtually. We had a question come in. I'm going to kind of paraphrase here, but they're talking about money per book. I'm going to guess here that the answer to that is Lisa, you have a passion for this. This is not a, again, she's putting kids through college, got a couple in high school and a couple in college. So this is a passion, and you are working your books, but your job is to write books, to find that market and find that niche. One question that I have is do you think that the interest in science, specifically with what you're doing, what you've done, how are students changing, and what's going on with their perception of science as we're learning all about viruses and the spread of viruses and those kind of things that you can't turn the news on or be on social media without hearing about? What impact do you think that has on children understanding science?
Well, I think we're certainly seeing how it applies to your everyday life, right? I mean, in a very important way. I haven't been in classrooms since this all started, so I don't really know that firsthand, but we're all getting a lot better at Zoom, I guess.
Well, there is that technology too now, and that has changed too. So now you're able to email back and forth with your publisher, with your editor. Have you seen the change in technology impact you? You've been writing books for a couple of years. Your first book came out a couple of years ago. Has that changed how you communicate with others and using technology?
Yeah, my first books actually came out in 2010, so it's been 10 years. I wouldn't say it's been a huge change, except for things like this, Zoom and things like this getting more popular. Although when I started writing, it was still in that phase of a lot of publishers wanted you to send your manuscripts through the mail, and now everybody wants email. Nobody wants to deal with actual packages in the mail. So that's kind of a convenience, and it's cheaper, and it's kind of nice for all of us, I think.
But it is exciting when you get a brand new case of new books that come in. I will tell students
Exactly.
They're like that smell of brand new books hot off the press. Lisa, how about other stories? We'll finish up here. We got just a couple minutes left. Any other Apple facts or Apple stories that you want to share with us?
Wow. Well, I can find you a fun fact here from the back of the book.
That's a really cool thing. Yeah, I didn't think of that. That's another thing that you got to do, was put in fun facts in the book, your own recipe and fun facts as well. Yeah.
This is called the back matter in the book, and it has an applesauce recipe, and it has some amazing apple facts. So I'll tell you one here. Apples belong to the rose family. Did you guys know that? Apples are related to roses, and that's why the flowers that you see on an apple tree look a lot like wild roses. So I think that's pretty cool.
And then also apple develops like the rose hip right behind the flower as well. So yeah.
Exactly. And they're pollinated by bees, which we also have beehives here. We're beekeepers too. So I think it's always fun to watch the bees on the apples. So yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. So 2 weeks ago, we were at the pollinator plot at the Brookfield Zoo, last week at an apple orchard. So bringing it all back together. Folks, with that, it is our time is coming right up on 1:30. Thank you again to author Lisa Amstutz. Google her, look on our blog site. You'll see all the stuff, and we'll make sure we have the link to her brand new books out there. But again, we're really excited about Applesauce Day. Folks, we do have a couple of challenges going on our blog site as well about stacking apples, and we also encourage you to post pictures of your family making applesauce, just like they do with Applesauce Day. That finishes up our September activities. We do start again in October. We're headed to the Pumpkin Patch virtually October 1st. Lisa will be joining Kaylee Heap at the Heap Giant Pumpkin Farm in Minooka, Illinois on October 1st. And then we'll be working with Patricia Tott, an Illinois author who wrote Pick a Pumpkin. She'll be joining us live on October the 8th. So again, in addition to Lisa's book, Applesauce Day, we've been promoting Patricia Tott's book, Pick a Pumpkin. And with that, Lisa Amstutz joining us from Ohio. Thank you very much for joining us, for taking time out to share a little bit about applesauce and what goes on. With that, folks, we encourage you to join us again at the 1st of October as we head to the pumpkin patch. If you're looking, it's supposed to be a cool weekend this weekend. Make sure you check out the Illinois Specialty Grower site to see where you can go and pick your own apples and enjoy making applesauce yourself, just like they do in Lisa's book, Applesauce Day. With that, thank you very much for joining us. We'll go ahead and stop the recording now, and we wish you all a great afternoon and a great September. Lisa, thank you for joining us. Thanks again.
Yep. Bye.
Bye. Thanks.